Let's talk about global shipping. You know, most of the stuff we own, trillions of dollars worth of it, gets to us packed neatly inside a standard shipping container. But what happens when things, well, when they just don't fit? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on Breakbulk Cargo, the absolute unsung hero of shipping that moves the biggest, heaviest, and frankly, the most awkward things on the entire planet. Look, the standard container is a total marvel of efficiency. I mean, it completely changed the game for global trade, making everything faster, cheaper, and way more secure. But just look at this yacht. It's incredible, right? But there is no way that thing is fitting into a 40-foot box. And that presents a huge logistical puzzle, which brings up a really big question. So how do you move the gigantic blades for a wind farm, or an entire train car, or a massive piece of factory equipment across an ocean? Well, the answer lies in a method that's actually been around way longer than the container, but it's evolved into this incredibly specialized, high-tech field. And that is the world of breakbulk shipping. It's the go-to solution for anything and everything that is, for lack of a better word, unbacksable. So let's just dive right in and get a crystal clear definition of what we're actually talking about here. Okay, so here's the most important takeaway. This is non-containerized cargo. It's not all packed up into a nice, uniform unit. No, instead, every single piece, whether it's a massive turbine or a single steel beam, is handled and loaded one by one directly into the ship's hold or right there on its deck. And the name itself is pretty cool, actually. Breakbulk is a direct throwback to the old days of shipping. Breaking bulk literally meant opening up the ship's hatch and starting that slow, manual process of unloading all the mixed cargo, one piece at a time. And this comparison just shows the evolution perfectly. I mean, look at this. On the left, you've got the past. Incredibly tough, manual labor, with guys physically handling every single barrel. Now look to the right. That's today. A highly skilled crew using enormous, heavy lift cranes to place a massive piece of machinery with pinpoint precision. The principle is exactly the same, piece by piece, but the technology? It's a whole different world. So what kind of stuff are we actually talking about here? Think big. No, think bigger. We're talking about the heavy machinery that builds our cities, the trains and trams that make up our transit systems, and the gigantic components for our energy grid, like the blades of a wind turbine. You know, if it's massive and it's essential, you can bet it travels as breakbulk cargo. Now, to really get a handle on breakbulk, it's super helpful to see how it stacks up against some other common shipping terms. Let's clear up a few things that can get kind of confusing. Okay, this table really lays it all out. When it comes to size and weight, containers have their limits, but breakbulk, basically no restrictions. Of course, that flexibility has a trade-off. Loading containers is super fast and standardized. Breakbulk is way slower, much more delicate work. And that also affects the risk, right? A sealed container is pretty safe. Exposed breakbulk cargo? It needs a whole lot more care to protect it from the elements and from damage. Now, here's a big one. Do not get breakbulk confused with bulk. They sound almost the same, but they're basically opposites. Bulk cargo is unpackaged, uniform stuff. Think grain, coal, iron ore, that gets poured right into a ship. Breakbulk cargo is a collection of individual, distinct items, like a yacht or a generator. And here's another distinction that can get a little tricky. Out-of-gauge or OOG cargo. Now, this is stuff that's too big for a standard closed-box container, but it often still gets loaded onto a specialized kind of container, like a flat rack that has no sides or a top. True breakbulk, on the other hand, isn't on any kind of container at all. It's just the item loaded directly onto the ship. All right, so we know what it is, but how does a giant piece of machinery actually get from a factory on one continent to a construction site on another? Let me tell you, it's a seriously complex step-by-step journey. This whole journey is just a masterclass in logistics. First, you need custom packaging. We're talking massive wooden crates or custom-built steel cradles. Then it has to get to a port with heavy-duty cranes that can even handle it. After that comes the slow, careful loading, and then, and this is so important, the secure lashing. It's meticulously chained, strapped, and wedged in with wood to make sure it doesn't move an inch. And finally, when it arrives, that whole specialized transport process has to happen all over again to get it to its final destination. So, like any specialized solution, choosing breakbulk comes with a whole set of trade-offs. It's the absolute perfect answer for some problems, but it's definitely not the right fit for everything. The biggest pro? Well, it's pretty obvious. You can ship things that are literally impossible to move any other way.
You get to transport a huge piece of equipment fully assembled, which can save a ton of time and money on disassembly and reassembly. Plus, it gives you access to smaller ports that just can't handle those giant container ships.
But yeah, the downsides are very real. The whole process is slower and way more complex. All that extra handling means there's a higher risk of something getting damaged. And because you need special ships and port equipment, the schedules are less frequent. And if you tried to ship regular goods this way, the cost would be way, way higher than just using a container.
So, after hearing all those trade-offs, you might be wondering, why is this method still so incredibly vital? Well, it's because without it, the modern world as we know it simply could not have been built. This tram right here is the perfect example of what people in the industry call project cargo. These are the massive, one-of-a-kind components you need for huge construction and infrastructure projects. Breakbulk shipping is basically the key that unlocks our ability to build these ambitious things on a global scale.
Seriously, every single time you see a new skyscraper going up, or a power plant, or a huge wind farm on the horizon, just remember, its most important pieces probably crossed an ocean as breakbulk cargo. This isn't just about moving stuff, it's the logistical backbone of progress.
So here's the thought I want to leave you with. Those simple shipping containers, they move the products that fill our lives every day. But breakbulk shipping, it moves the projects that actually build our future. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? As our ambitions get even bigger, what incredible things will we be loading onto these ships next?